Yes! P2, and give me a pole position, P1, P2. Nice job.
We'll speak after.
For those of you who remember, this was a team radio message from Sebastian Vettel in 2018, after qualifying second at the Italian Grand Prix. As a Ferrari driver, you'd expect that he'd be pretty happy with that. I mean, to line up on the front row for Ferrari and Monza is a great achievement. So why was Vettel's response so short and blunt? Well, Monza is renowned for being the temple of speed. Lots of straights and not many corners. As a result, drivers can gain a huge amount of lap time through gaining a slipstream or tow from the car in front. The advantage of a tow is so powerful that in 2019 for the final Q3 runs, nobody wanted to be the leading car and they all ran out of time. Well, apart from Carlos Sainz. Anyway, back on topic. The reason why Vettel replied with "we speak after" on team radio is because Ferrari gave Raikkonen the tow on the last set of runs. Now, to be fair, it was Kimi's turn to go out behind his teammates. But when you consider how crucial the tow is at Monza and the state of the championship battle, surely you'd want to prioritize your lead driver. I mean, Seb had just come off the back of winning in Spa, and it would have been a great opportunity to gain some momentum over Hamilton and Mercedes. But instead, he was left exposed to the 7-time world champion at the start of the race, and the two came together at turn 4, with Seb coming off worse. Ferrari didn't need to risk that. Had Vettel been on pole, there would have been at least another car between himself and his championship rival. To make matters worse, Raikkonen was told on Sunday morning that he wouldn't be driving for the team next season, so he had no reason to help his teammates. This is just one example of many questionable strategy calls made by the Scuderia, and what we just saw at the British Grand Prix was the latest episode. Now, just to be clear, I don't want to take anything away from Carlos Sainz. His first victory in Formula 1 has been long overdue, and I was super happy to see him finally break through. I've always been a big fan of Carlos, as I never thought he got the credit he deserved. This season, he hasn't had the easiest time, with a combination of bad luck and a few unforced errors leading to a lot of criticism being thrown his way. However, now he's got a win under his belt, his confidence should be sky high moving forward. As for Charles Leclerc, I simply don't get it. Here's a stat that will probably make your jaw drop. Leclerc hasn't finished on the podium for almost 2 months. In those 2 months, we've had 5 races, and of those 5, Charles should have won at least 2 of them. At the Spanish Grand Prix, Leclerc was comfortably leading the race. After storming to pole by almost 0.3 of a second, he got the perfect getaway and made 0 mistakes. Meanwhile, his teammate and Max Verstappen both spun into the gravel at turn 4. It was looking all good until lap 27, when his power unit suddenly died on him. The problem was initially undiagnosed, but later they found out that both the MGUH and turbo were both damaged beyond repair. It was an unfortunate scenario, but considering how quick he was with the new Ferrari upgrades, he could at least carry confidence knowing that the F175 would be more competitive in race trim going forward. However, what happened in the next race in Monaco will never cease to baffle me. Once again, Leclerc was untouchable in qualifying, producing an incredible lap around the streets of the Principality. Due to the torrential rain, the race was started behind the safety car, and once it pulled into the pits, Charles built a commanding lead over his teammates. As the race approached the crossover point between wets, inters and slicks, Red Bull decided to roll the dice with Sergio Perez, who came in for intermediates on lap 17. Ferrari were closely monitoring the situation and noticed that the Mexican was absolutely flying. So realistically, their only way to maintain track position was to wait until it was dry enough for slicks. This is something Leclerc and his engineer discussed, but for some reason, they changed their mind and put him on inters. Sainz did the opposite and waited until lap 22 to come in for slicks. And to add even more insult to injury for Charles, they double stacked them. They could have allowed him to push on the inters for a few laps to at least have a chance of getting back ahead of Carlos. But instead, there was some radio miscommunication which caused Leclerc to not only lose out to his teammates, but also Max Verstappen. Ferrari threw away what should have been a comfortable race victory if they had even the slightest bit of competence with strategy. They unnecessarily lost points to Red Bull in the constructors and hung their star driver out to dry. Leclerc did absolutely nothing wrong, but he was compromised by his own team. Nevertheless, he moved on to Azerbaijan looking to bounce back, and he did so by putting together another qualifying masterclass. He lost out to Checo at the start, however, the virtual safety car deployed on lap 10 gave him a free stop over the 2 Red Bulls. When they eventually came in, Leclerc inherited the lead and was about 12.5 seconds clear. But then, he suffered a power unit failure once again. This was down to using a combination of old and new components for the power unit on a track where throttle demands are at their greatest. This power unit also became a write-off, which forced Leclerc to take brand new components in Canada and start the race from the back of the grid. He most definitely had pace to win that day, and given their tyre degradation issues suffered early in the season had mostly been solved with the upgrade in Spain, he would have been able to cover whatever Red Bull threw his way. He described the race in Canada as super frustrating, as he was unable to pass the Alpine of Esteban Ocon. Leclerc, on much older hard tyres, struggled for traction out of the hairpin. Combine that with the Alpine's supreme straight line speed, and it literally became impossible for him to pass. When he eventually pitted for mediums on lap 33, the Ferrari mechanics had trouble attaching the left rear, and the stop ended up taking 5.3 seconds. This left Charles behind a train of cars he'd already cleared, which compromised his race even more. He eventually ended up 5th, but his work was made harder than it needed to be due to that bad stop. And now we get to Silverstone. Charles collided with Sergio Perez on the restart, and he was left without a front wing end plate for the rest of the race. Despite this, his race pace was better than his teammate who was leading the race. With Hamilton becoming an ever-growing threat, Ferrari decided to swap the two cars around to prevent the Brits from catching and passing them both. Leclerc's pace was solid out front until the safety car was brought out with 13 laps to go. The team could have easily double-stacked their drivers and given them equal opportunity to go for the race win. But instead, they left Charles out on old hards and brought in Carlos for a new set of softs. With 10 laps to go, it was inevitable that Leclerc would lose the race lead and even a spot on the podium. But he never gave up, pulling off one of the greatest overtakes I've ever seen. Battling with Lewis Hamilton on the run down to Copse, Charles sent it around the outside of the 7-time world champion at 180 miles an hour. After finishing P4 and hopping out of the car, Leclerc was met by Mattia Binotto, who was apparently comforting him. I think Jenson Button put it best when he jokingly said, "I always cheer up my friends with a good finger wag." It looked more like, do not publicly criticize the team more than anything else. In a race where Verstappen was out of the picture, this was the perfect opportunity to regain some points in the championship. What could have been a 19-point swing only ended up being a 6-point swing. The only error Leclerc has made all season is spinning in Imola, where he was simply trying too hard to catch the much quicker Red Bulls. But he remains 43 points down on Verstappen in the championship as we approach the halfway stage. Now, it's by no means over, but based on what we've seen from them so far, and what we've seen from them in the past, Ferrari won't give Leclerc the support he needs to beat Verstappen for the driver's title. Sure, they've given him a great car, but their strategies, pit stops and decision making have been much worse than their rivals. Since day one, they've had this Ferrari comes first philosophy. Every decision they make is to get the best possible results for the team. And that's great. However, the drivers are constantly taking points off each other. If you compare this to a system like Mercedes with Bottas and Hamilton, or Red Bull with Perez and Verstappen, you've got a megastar driver as their number one, and a solid number two who on his day can win races. Leclerc's talent is that of a Hamilton or Verstappen, and Ferrari are wasting it. In my opinion, they need him more than the other way around. He's always been on it, delivering sensational qualifying laps weekend after weekend. But it's the team who have let him down time and time again. What started out as a promising championship battle is quickly turning into Max Verstappen domination. At this moment in time, Leclerc is the only one who can stop him, and Ferrari need to help him do that. Let's hope, for the good of the sports, that Leclerc's championship hopes remain alive until the end of the season. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know what you think. Do you think Ferrari are letting Leclerc down this year? Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Please like the video if you enjoyed and subscribe to the channel with bell notifications to keep up to date with my latest videos in the future. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.